Foley for Take It Away, Jodie.
Thank you. I want to be sure that everyone can hear me. Sometimes I have problems with this headset.
You sound great.
Okay, perfect. So good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to What's on Tap for the 2020 COSA year. This webinar is brought to you by the committees, staff, and boards who have been very busy over the past few months putting together our goals and programs for the year, and it really promises to be a busy and productive year. I do want to take just a minute to let you know the educational and collaborative work that we have planned for the year. Starting out with webinars, it's a real strong suit for COSA. There are the COSA member, the SERI, the Shop Talk, and the NARA COSA webinars, so please join us for those and really take advantage of these great training opportunities. Kathy Popovich and Alan Ramsey will provide more details in their presentation in just a few minutes, but they really will showcase what is the best of COSA, I believe, our people and our collective archival knowledge and skills. Another piece I'd like to highlight is the research and publications and collaborations that we've done through the IMLS Access Grant and SERI. As this grant approaches its completion, it's very clear to me just how successful it has been. Alan Ramsey will give details about all the tools and resources, education and training, advocacy and outreach that have come out of that grant. And Michelle Gallinger and all of the members of the SERI team should be very proud of what they've accomplished with that grant. And coming up, April 22nd, we're going to be doing our partner briefing. This is an important part of your board's mid-year meeting. It gives us the opportunity to share with government agency colleagues, record stakeholders, corporate sponsors, and funding organizations, just looking at what we're working at, what our goals are, and how those intersect with the interests of all those groups that I just listed. We are also looking at, of course, our annual meeting, which is going to be in Chicago and Austin, together with SAA, August 2nd through the 8th. This is our annual opportunity for members to meet face-to-face, to work on COSA issues, projects and concerns, and to give and gain great training. And Lisa Johnson will provide more details in her presentation this morning, or this afternoon. At the center of all of this work, next slide please, is you, our members. COSA really values our members, so a big thanks to members, board members, committees, chairs, staff, contractors, our corporate sponsors, and other partners. As you see there, 50 individuals work on all of the committees. This is an organization that thrives because all of you step up to do all this important work, and we do it together and share of our time and interest, and that's amazing. So meeting our goals as an organization takes a great deal of coordination, communication, and collaboration, which we always hope to improve upon. One way we hope to do that this year is through a new website and member communication site, Higher Logic. More to come, and you'll hear a little bit more about that in this presentation as well. But please, please contact me or any board member or Barbara, staff, with any ideas, concerns, just what we can do to help you as part of the board or leadership of COSA. So thanks again for attending this. I just want to let folks know who's going to be speaking. Eric Emerson, Finance Committee Chair, will speak in just a moment. Jim Corridon, Advocacy and Committee Co-Chair. Lizette Peltier, Development Committee. Kathy Popovich, Education and Training. John Dugan, Awards Committee, and Alan Ramsey for SERI. And so now I'll pass this on to the Chairman of the Finance Committee, Eric Emerson.
Thanks, Jodie. 2019 was a great year for COSA financially. If you recall, this is the first year of increased dues, where we increased dues to $27.50 per organization, and we increased the meeting reimbursements to accompany that $27.50 to $1,375. We're really excited that 50 of the 56 states, territories, and the District of Columbia paid dues in 2019 for a total of 135,375 dues. $375 in dues income. That's over $3,375 over our budgeted amount of $132,000. Our reserve fund and awards fund made tremendous gains. The reserve fund now stands at $73,654. The Walsh Awards Fund stands at $30,225. And we're very excited that our investment account made such great gains due to the stock market increases. Our investment account stands currently at $182,000, $182,537. As far as general operations are concerned, we were under budget by approximately $28,000, and so we'll use carryover money for that the 2019 year to help fund a content management system by higher logic, and we're very excited about that. So I'll turn it over now to Jim Corden of the Advocacy Committee.
Thank you, Eric. I appreciate that, and I'm glad to hear you're doing so well financially. I wanted to talk a little bit about what the Advocacy Committee's been up to and some of the both opportunities and challenges we'll be facing in 2020 and 2021. To begin with, the NHPRC budget. You may not have known, NHPRC, of course, is the group that provides grant funds to archives. There's multiple federal agencies that will provide grants to archives, but NHPRC is the only one that has dedicated funds for archives. Last year, we received $6 million in NHPRC grant funds from the Congress. COSA didn't, but NHPRC did. And this year, $6.5 million is allocated, so about a 9% increase, which is a positive sign. The unfortunate news is that the President's budget, when it comes out, OMB has, as happens almost every year, zeroed out NHPRC for 2021, so we'll have to have another battle to get funding for NHPRC. NARA's budget was reduced and then increased and then reduced, and so the net change there was probably a slight maybe increase in some areas and diminishment in others. The biggest change in the National Archives budget was probably the $22 million digitization improvement that was authorized by Congress to go into Archives 2 in Maryland. And so they're going to build out a huge digitization center so they can begin mass digitization of lots of the collections at the National Archives. However, no operating money was set aside for future years, so we'll have to deal with that challenge, I think. And one of the reasons we spend so much time as the COSA Advocacy Committee talking about federal issues is because we think it's important that the National Archives shines as best as it can because it will reflect on the rest of us. And I'll get back to that in a second. So in the current environment, the National Archives is going to be seeking a 10% increase in the 2021 budget, which is the budget that will be coming out in the fall, in the winter here, when the President releases the February budget. The National Archives is not going to have that in the OMB budget, but we are going to work to try and increase that number. The National Archives budget has been diminishing for years. And they are, like many of us were maybe 5 and 10 years ago, struggling from severe financial problems. While their projects and programs have increased dramatically and the scope and scale of their collections have increased, they've actually seen a decrease from about 3,000 employees to 2,875 employees in the last 20 years, and yet they have tremendous more burden put on them. So we're going to work with Congress to see if we can turn that around and start getting some significant increases into NARA's budget. I should also mention that IMLS, NEH, Library of Congress all see small increases, and the National Archives has been seeing decreases for the last 10 or so years. So they need our help, and we're going to try and rally, and we will likely be calling on all of you to help join us get that done because it's going to be a huge effort. I want to also mention NHPRC reauthorization. So the way Congress and the government works is agencies have to be authorized. NHPRC is a subunit of the National Archives. Its authorization ran out at the end of 2009, so 10 years ago. We are now in the process of lining up Senate sponsors for a bill to have NHPRC reauthorized. In last year, we had the House of Representatives approved on a largely partisan vote in committee a bill that would have reauthorized Congress at $15 million, but because it became so partisan, we've stopped that effort and are now working through the Senate to try and get a bill approved in a much more bipartisan manner. The NHPRC reauthorization would call for a $10 million funding authorization, which would give us some growth from the $6.5 million we're currently at. And it also calls for a seat on the NHPRC, which is really a commission that authorizes and recommends grants to the Archivists of the United States. And so COSA would have a seat on that commission for the first time ever. And that's fine with the National Archives and with our allies and colleagues across the field. So those have all been included in the bill. Senator Sullivan from Alaska, Republican, is the sponsor of the bill. He represents the Senate on the commission. And we believe that Senator Carper from Delaware will be a co-sponsor, the leading co-sponsor on the bill, a Democrat from Delaware. So we'll have bipartisan support. We'll also be asking all the states if they would please contact their senators at the appropriate time. Not quite yet. We'd like to get the Senate back focusing on legislation soon. But when that happens, we'll be asking all the states to help us move these bills forward and reaching out to their senators, and then we'll send this bill over to the House once it passes the Senate and get our House colleagues to help along as well. Those are the highlights on the National Archives pieces. IMLS budget and NEH budget are also moving forward. As I mentioned, they've been seeing small increases over the last few years, and they continue to do well. Every year, COSA advocates for IMLS and NEH as well as the National Archives. There's a whole separate group of us working together, the Collaborative Advocacy Committee, which is a group of SAA, the regional archive groups, and NAGARA as well as COSA. And so we are working to try and make sure these things happen in a collaborative way where all of us are speaking from the same book and not crossing up each other's messages. And so that group's been in existence for about 5 years now and has been fairly effective. We often issue joint statements or work jointly. The last big project we had was about 1.5 years or 2 years ago when we were in Washington, D.C., and had Archives on the Hill Day where almost 100 archivists went up to Capitol Hill and were advocating for archives. So we hope that'll happen again when we're back in Washington. It's exciting to know that COSA has rejoined the National Coalition of History's Policy Board. We were on that 2 or 3 years ago, and so now Barbara Teague is our delegate with Tom, the vice president, kind of as the alternate, both being kept aware of what's going on with the Policy Board. The National Coalition for History is an organization that coordinates multiple historical organizations and a handful of archival organizations to push for historical funding and support. So it's good to see that we're involved with that again. We'll have an attendee, at least one attendee at the National Humanities Alliance Advocacy Day this March. And I suspect that the board will be meeting in April in D.C. and we'll be doing, some of us will be doing, or some people will be doing some advocacy on the Hill to try and get some of these legislative initiatives moving forward. Lastly, I want to commend the Advocacy Committee as well as the Executive Committee and the board for their efforts in drafting and submitting a COSA statement on the recent National Archives exhibit, brouhaha, related to the exhibit that they put up on the 100th anniversary of women's rights issues. And so commendation for their efforts at seeking input, but also providing a balanced statement that made some good sense. So thank you all for that. And then the last thing I want to say is I would like to introduce Lizette, who will be talking about the Development Committee. Lizette?
Hi, thanks, Jim. As Eric mentioned, that we had a very good membership drive this year, and we're hoping to keep that going. For the 2019 annual appeal, That was also very successful. The final total was $7,362.50, which was $262.50 above our goal. And also our silent auction at the annual meeting was very successful. So thank you to those members and friends who donated items, and start thinking now about what you're going to bring to Chicago for that silent auction. Our ongoing corporate sponsors, Ancestry, Preservica, Family Search, Apex, and Libnova, are continuing their support. And again, we're grateful for everything they do for us. Some of these agreements are coming up for renewal, and we started exploring some new avenues of support with them. We had some beneficial meetings in Austin this past summer on possible projects. And then we're continually grateful to Gaylord for their in-kind donations for disaster response. They've been very helpful, and we're glad to have them on board. Next slide. So for 2020, we hope to keep the membership dues payments continuing at the same level, or pick up those last few people. We also hope to replicate the success of the two appeals that we had this year, one in May to coincide with Disaster Preparedness Month, and one in the fall that we've also tied into Giving Tuesday. Gifts can be designated to a number of funds such as the Welch Leadership Fund, the Reserve Fund, Disaster Recovery Fund, or to general operating funds. And while we appreciate donations wherever they are designated, our focus will be on growing the Disaster Recovery Fund. This resource allows COSA to provide a targeted response to those government archives in need of immediate assistance and advice after an event, and we've had quite a few recently. Development Committee members will continue to work diligently with our current sponsors and with two new sponsors that we are bringing on board. Their contributions support a wide variety of projects, including webinars, research, our annual conference events, and scholarships to attend training and meetings. We welcome your suggestions for potential sponsors for a specific project or general support, and they don't have to be national companies. So if you're aware of a regional vendor or group that you work with, we'd really appreciate those recommendations. Finally, with Ann and Barbara's help, we are exploring various grant opportunities as well as potential foundation funders. We're looking to create a think tank of COSA members and individuals from other organizations who have successfully applied for foundation grants to assist us in finding the right project and the right approach to acquiring that support. So thank you for your time, and I'm going to pass the baton on to Kathy Popovich.
Thank you. I'm happy to share with you all today the different programs that the Education and Training Committee has planned for this year. Probably our most well-known program is our series of member webinars. Every year, or at least for the past number of years, we choose a theme for the year and hold webinars related to that theme. Last year we did webinars focused on emergency preparedness and disaster planning, but this year we're doing something a little bit different. We're calling our theme Hot Topics, where we'll take a deep dive into some of the hot topics in archives today. So we're still fleshing a little bit of the details out for those member webinars, but the schedule is up on the COSA website, and I will go ahead and just real quickly run through those. In February, we have our annual Shrab Town Hall, where we'll hear from Dan Stokes from NHPRC, and we'll also hear from one of our state Shrabs, Arizona. Their Shrab is going to share with us about the programming that they're doing. In March, we will hear from former Director of Litigation at NARA, Jason Barron, who will discuss recent initiatives and policy changes in federal record keeping and their applicability at the state level. April will be our annual Advocacy webinar, where we'll hear from members of COSA's Advocacy Committee, and we'll hear about all of the great work that they've been doing. In May, we'll hear from Christine Kim and Adrian Turner from the University of California on the Online Archive of California and Calisphere. In June, we'll have Helen Wong-Smith from the University of Hawaii will present on cultural competency and diversity and inclusion in the archives. July, we will feature, I believe, at least two state archives, focusing on how they provide opportunities for and how they facilitate training for archivists. August will be our annual meeting wrap-up, and September will again feature our COSA award winners. And then in October, we'd like to do a state archive spotlight. So here's where I have to do a little pitch for the committee. If you are doing something unique at your archives, or if you have a new project that you'd like to share, please reach out to the committee or Barbara or Lisa, because we'd love to hear what you're doing and throw a spotlight on some of the great work that all of our institutions are doing. The Education Committee also helps coordinate the Shop Talk webinars with COSA's corporate sponsors. This is an opportunity for them to share what projects they're working on, to share that with the membership. We're planning for those to be in the spring and fall, so be on the lookout for those announcements. We also have our joint COSA-NARA webinars, which are held quarterly. Again, we're still solidifying topics for those webinars, but we're looking to have our first webinar in March. So again, be on the lookout for those webinar announcements. Next slide, please. For our communications, we have our monthly newsletter with over 1,000 subscribers. The news brief provides a lot of information on things going on with COSA and with the membership. So if you're not already subscribed, I encourage you to do that. We also maintain the 3 listservs and are transitioning into managing group communications with Higher Logic. COSA is also active on social media, so I again encourage you to follow us on Facebook and Twitter. And finally, COSA also has the mentoring program for new state archivists, and we're always looking for ways to review and improve on that program. So if you have any ideas, please feel free to send them our way. And with that, I believe I will pass this on to Tom.
Thanks, Kathy. Hopefully everyone can hear me okay. I want to talk to you a little bit about the Council of State Archivists SAA annual meeting, which is in Chicago the first week of August. You can see a little bit of the schedule, but before I go into that, I want to put a big shout out of thanks to Alan Ramsey from Connecticut and Linda Avetta from Pennsylvania for the huge amount of work that they did in helping put together what is really going to be a great conference set of education sessions at the conference. There will be a government records track, which has a number of our colleagues presenting on various aspects of challenges that we face in state and local government, and even federal government repositories. And there'll be a number of great sessions that deal with issues that we all face: web archiving, electronic mail management, and making ourselves be relevant within the context of a broader organization. There were 211 sessions, education proposals, and poster sessions sent into the conference. From that, we distilled 70 sessions, education sessions, and poster sessions. So there's a whole host and a huge amount of great information that's going to be available at that conference in August. You'll see the tentative schedule for our events at the meeting. We'll start Tuesday, August 4th with the COSA board meeting. And then, again, this is tentative. It may change, but it won't be too far off of these dates. And then on Wednesday, August 5th, we'll have the COSA-NARA Great Ideas Exchange Day and our work session, which that Great Ideas Exchange Day, for those of you that have been to that before, you realize how incredibly valuable that day-long session is, or half-day session is. And then Thursday, August 6th through Saturday, August 8th is when the program, the education sessions that make up the heart and the meat of that annual meeting with COSA and SAA in Chicago will occur. We still have not quite determined the date of the COSA business meeting, but there will be, hopefully again, a silent auction, which was very successful at the annual meeting last year, raised a significant amount of money. And of course, the meeting that's already been set up, but we don't have a specific date for the meeting with the SRABs, which includes some representatives from the NHPRC. Again, thanks a lot for the opportunity to represent us at this annual meeting planning committee. And again, thanks to Alan and Linda. I'm going to turn it over now to John Dugan.
Thank you, Tom. Really thrilled to talk a little bit about the COSA Awards program. We have great funding from a few of our vendors and also from the Council of State Archivists itself for those. We have two deadlines through the year, an April 1st deadline, and hopefully you all got emails and you're on the listservs to receive those emails for the awards that will be that will have a deadline for April 1st. We've already awarded on November of this past year the COSA Ancestry Leadership Awards for travel and for training for those, but I would encourage you to put that on your calendar for next year so that if you're interested in getting some advanced training and traveling to the annual meeting the following year, that you apply for that. So just walk you through a couple of those other training opportunities and encourage you, like I said, to apply for these awards. And some of these, like I said, are also training and some are just awards. But the first one there, the Waltz Leadership Award, is really the top award given for someone who works with state archives. We've had some great recipients for that in the past. The Emergency Leader Travel Stipend Award is for attendance, would be this year in Chicago. So would encourage everyone either to have folks from your archives apply or apply yourself for that. The Advocacy for Archives Award oftentimes is given to a federal or statewide official who works to benefit archives. And so oftentimes, not always, but oftentimes that's a political figure who is receives that award. The Rising Star Awards are also related to travel to the conference, and those recognize some of the young leaders that we have in COSA and our staffs. And then last but not least is the COSA NHPRC SRAB Award of Merit. And in past years, we've been a little disappointed with participation in that because our SRABs, many of them are doing great things, but we don't take the time to pat ourselves on the back. So we would encourage the state archives across the country to nominate your SRAB for the things that they're doing that really make a huge impact in your state. So don't leave that one out. Nominate your SRAB. So, and with that, that's my report. I'm going to now turn the microphone over to Alan.
All right, thank you, John. So I'm going to update everyone on SERI, State Electronic Records Initiative, and we're in our final year of the IMLS Access Grant. We've been doing a lot of work on collaborating with our stakeholders, National Association of Secretary of State, National Association of State Chief Information Officers, Chief Office of State Library Agencies, and the National Governors Association, which we're working on a few more documents to get out to the governors in the states and territories. Michelle has been keeping us focused and on these documents and products. You can find all grant products on the website, whether the ones with the our state collaborators or things that we've branded. Also, we, as you see here, towards a common understanding, insights on interagency state electronic records transfer report was put out in collaboration and support by Preservica. I suggest everybody go take a look at that. It looks at the challenges and opportunities for interagency transfer from agencies, the state archives, and the state information technology perspectives. And then Steps to Preserve State Electronic Records was a one-page back and front put out with our co-branded with the National Association of Secretary of State, and that's up on the website as well. Next slide. So the Tools and Resources Subcommittee is, and I should mention all subcommittees are working on a video series this year on processing electronic records. So there's various topics. So look forward to that series coming out. The intro video should be out soon, if not already. And then each month there will be a new video coming out. I want to thank Elizabeth Perks and all of the committees, Elizabeth Perks from Utah and all the committees for making this video series come together, working on outlines and scripts and all that. I think it's going to be a really good series of videos for professionals and others to look at about how to work with digital records. The committee is also working yet to wrap up the Access Grant, which is wrapping up in September. So we're working on getting the last documents developed and reviewed. They're continuing to provide oversight of the COSA Resource Center and make sure that the information is up to date, the links work. And as always, if you have a new workflow or a new policy or procedures or something you've created, please submit that to the Resource Center. We're always looking for examples of what others are doing, and it's a very easy submission process. If you have any challenges in doing that, reach out to me or to Barbara or other individuals in SERI. The committee's turned back to working on the second digital best practices document, which will focus on how to seek out, we're going to focus on the front part of grants, how to write for grants, planning for grants. So that will be worked on this year. And the co-chairs of the committee are Nick Canizio and Alejandra Dean from Massachusetts. Next slide. Education and Training Subcommittee is got webinars scheduled through May. The next one is on February 4th. All the SERI webinars are on Tuesdays at 2 p.m. Eastern, and the one on February 4th is going to be on Levels of Preservation 2.0, which is looking at the National Digital Stewardship Alliance levels of preservation. So we're going to learn about what's changed in the levels of preservation. And then on March 10th will be a webinar on Saving Congressional Constituent Services Data, Lessons from the American Context Congress Project. So we're going to learn, individuals learn about the project that West Virginia University Libraries to get congressional constituent services data out of intranet quorum and other systems. Again, they're working on the video series and have been kind of coordinating and keeping everybody together on the video series and providing recording support for the video series. Again, I want to thank Elizabeth Perks from Utah. And their co-chairs are Bonnie Weddle from New York and Catherine Behringer from Maryland. Next slide. And Advocacy and Outreach. We had a successful 2009 Electronic Records Day with a new poster. If you haven't seen it, go check it out on the website. In the past few years, they've focused on spotlight programs, blog posts. This year, they're going to take that and see if there's ways to reuse that information, either via recorded webinars or other webinar avenues or other avenues, maybe publications of a different type. They're supporting the social media presence of SERI, so Twitter and Facebook posts, and also working on the video series with Christian Skipper doing the introductory script writing with other members of the committee. The co-chairs of the committee are Christian Skipper from Maryland and Patsy Mitchell from Tennessee. And now I'm going to hand it back to Jodie.
Thanks, Ellen. And thank you to all the presenters. We had a lot of information. As I said, as we started out, this is going to be a very busy year, and it was a very busy year last year, but lots of great tools and training available. I am just wondering if, I'm just not seeing any questions per se. I did ask if folks are interested to put down their contact information, each of the committee chairs that are available on the call. So you can contact those folks in particular if you're interested in volunteering or just finding out a little bit more about what each of the committees do and what their particular needs are right now. I guess I'm just wondering if any of the folks, the committee chairs or speakers today would like to make a particular pitch for their particular committee and what they're looking for in terms of help. Anyone?
This is Alan. I would just say if anyone has any interest, we're always looking for members with new perspectives or new ideas. We're also always looking for webinar topics for electronic records. So I would just throw that out there.
Thank you.
Hi, this is Lizette. We're the money committee, and I know a lot of people don't like to be asking for money, but you don't spend a lot of your time actually asking for money. We do a little bit of that, just setting up contacts for other people to talk to at the annual meeting, and we just do just ideas or the auction and things like that. So it's not a lot of you're calling and selling and asking. We're just looking for good ideas, people with contacts. We have a number of retirees who are on the committee, and so it would be nice to get some new people to come on to development with fresh ideas and approaches. So give me a call or Steve Excel, and if you're interested in being on the development committee.
And this is Jim. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, please.
This is Jim on the advocacy committee, and John Dugan co-chairs that with me, who also serves as the awards committee chair. We've both listed our email addresses here, and the advocacy committee is a little different. We may call on you. You're all welcome to volunteer. There's no question about that. But sometimes there may be a member of Congress or a U.S. Senator with whom we are trying to work more closely, and so we may be calling you and asking you to help, or have your SHRAB help, or someone in your state help us get something done or a number of things done. So even if you don't volunteer, you may get volunteered for the advocacy committee, but we'd love to have more interest and more participation and certainly more feedback. So we look forward to hearing from some of you.
And Jodie, this is Barbara. I'd just like to echo that, some of the committees that you all have heard about today, you may think you don't have expertise in that particular area, but if you want to volunteer, you'll find that you do have expertise and that you can also develop more knowledge and skills as you work on these committees. Development is a great example because most of us in our job as archivists, unless we're working with donors or working with agencies, we're not necessarily great in doing development work, but you do find that the work that that committee is doing or that the advocacy committee is doing, that you can put your skills to work even though you may not think you have those. So if you're at all interested, please do let us know. And also, as Kathy Popovich mentioned, the education committee is doing a lot of great work, and we're looking over the next year, or really the next 6 months, to changing our communications from the listservs to more of a community web-based communications facilitation. So if you have any expertise in that, we'd love to have you on that committee too.
Anyone else? I would like to make the comment too that a couple different things. That remember that as each state, not just the state archivist is considered a member of COSA. We really want to reach out to all of your staff members, and working on the committees is a great way, as Barbara said, to build a skill set. It looks great on vitas and resumes and all those sorts of things. Not that you want to push your people out, but just getting them that work experience and experience to other ways of doing things through conversations. The other thing I'd like to say is that for me, working on the committees for COSA was a way to really build my confidence as an archivist, because I got that great opportunity to talk more intensively with people about issues of concern to me. And, you know, if nothing else, just realizing we're on track, we're doing really well. Yeah, actually, we do have a really unique way of doing something that might be helpful to another state. So these committees are really sort of the bedrock of all that information building and sharing of information, and it's just a really creative place and safe creative place to build your confidence as an archivist. So again, I would just really, really like you to consider that committee work as just a great opportunity as well as some work. So were there any questions from the attendees? And I can certainly pass a question specifically to one of the committee members, or committee members, do you have any comments about what committee work has been, what it's done for you?
I guess this is Kathy Popovich. I'll just echo, I think, I'm not sure it was Jodie or Barbara, who I'm not a state archivist, so I'm a staff member, and it's been, working with the committee has been a really, really good opportunity to build on my skill set, but also to make connections in the state archives world. So I'll be the, fourth or fifth person to just encourage everyone to get involved if you can.
Okay, folks, I think that's probably it for this particular webinar. Thank you so much for all the committee chairs and for everyone. I guess we have one more piece. I need to pass this back to Lisa to talk about upcoming webinars and so forth before we close out. But thank you so much for participating, everyone.
Thank you, Jodie. I'd like to echo Jodie's thanks for your participation. We love having people attend our webinars. We know you don't always get a lot of ways to communicate, so chat's important, but we welcome every one of you, and we want you to participate in all of these. So first, again, I want to just remind you, we've got more webinars coming up. Kathy gave you the rundown in the education report, but here's the next 6 months, basically, of webinars. So you can see what we've got on tap. Now, one note, normally our webinars are the 4th Thursday of every month. However, April's will be a 5th Thursday, so you'll just watch for the notices to remind you. We go on that. Next slide, please. And, of course, we've got great SERI webinars coming up. So don't forget to check those out, and you'll see the notices inviting you to those as well. Next slide. We've got lots of upcoming events to be aware of, too, in 2020. Now, this first one, Endangered Data Week. We celebrated it last year. The date for this year is not up yet on their website, but this would be approximately the coordinating time frame, so watch for more of that from us. These particular events are either sometimes events that you can tie into what you're doing or things that you may want to participate in. Sunshine Week, of course, is March 15th through 21st, and then we start in on our activities. The Best Practices Exchange will be in Raleigh, North Carolina in March. Another excellent event to attend if you can. The COSA board will have its mid-year board meeting in Washington, D.C. in April. And then we start the annual conferences. July will be the Nagara Conference in Denver. And then, of course, our own COSA-SAA annual meeting, which will be August in Chicago. Next slide. Of course, none of this is possible without the sponsorship of all of our corporate sponsors and funders. And here's just many of the ones that we work with. We hope you will watch for a few of them will be providing us with shop talks, so watch for those. But when you do work with them, thank them for their sponsorship, because we couldn't do this in COSA without their support. Next slide. And of course, staying connected is so important. When you look at the 50 United States plus the territories, it's hard to reach out and stay connected, but we've got many ways of doing that. We've got our website, the Resource Center, which is a great source of information on different topics. You have Twitter, we have Facebook, and we, of course, have YouTube. So all of those are great ways to stay in touch. Next slide. Finally, we really do appreciate your feedback and your attendance at these webinars, and your feedback does help us take a look at what we want to do and how we're doing. So do take a minute and fill in the webinar responses and evaluate them for us. Again, we thank you for your attendance today, and we welcome you for joining us at our next webinar. And thank you to all our presenters for excellent reports. And thank you, everyone, for attending today. We hope you have a great week, and we'll see you next time. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.